Welcome to the Mike on Much podcast. This is a very special edition of the Mike on Much podcast, but I am still here with my friend and trusted producer Max Kerman,
Hi.
as well as our pop culture aficionado Shane Cunningham. I didn't know if you were going to say hi the way Max.
Hi.
There you go. Guys, this is a special episode for our listeners because there is no feature guest today. We are the
feature guest.
for the feature conversation today because this episode is all about our new Crave show, Mike on Much, in conversation with so many great people. I have long-form conversations with Sting and Shaggy, Noel Gallagher, Jodie Whittaker, Nile Rodgers, Jared Kiso from Letterkenny, Alessia Cara, Lights, and am I forgetting anybody?
There's a lot of digital.
Leon Bridges. How could I forget Leon Bridges? Not only that, though, we also have 8 amazing digital desserts where Shane's talking to big-time celebs, too. Shaney, who you talking to?
Brent Butt, number one there. Arkells.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're on there. Yeah.
Who else we got?
Max, what did you think of the Arkells digital dessert?
We'll get to that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Arkells, Brent Butt. Who else you got there?
Jason Mraz.
Monster Truck.
Monster Truck.
The Jersey Shore people.
Vinny and Dina.
Emmy Award winner Chris Redd, cast member of Saturday Night Live.
Yes.
That's right.
And then what?
A
Who
Jacob Tremblay impersonator.
else? Yeah.
That's abstract comedy.
This list seemed better before. I don't know.
Maybe we should have let your list go first and then my list. But listeners, we are so excited that we have a show on Crave. Man, 8 episodes. We did the damn thing.
Yeah, it was a cool experience.
This is why you wanted to talk. You wanted to walk people through the experience. Is that it, Max?
Yeah, so I thought it'd be fun as maybe a bit of a promo piece and just an opportunity to, well, it's still relatively fresh in our minds to talk about the making of the show. But also, the reason why we do any of this stuff is for free stuff, right? Like, this is why we have a podcast, or why, we're always trying to get free tickets to things and free swag.
To me, that's just an ancillary benefit. I do it for friendship and camaraderie.
That
Max.
too, but
Yeah.
the main reason,
Okay.
is that other thing that I just said. And you called me when we were in Europe on tour, and you said that Max, Bell wants to send us to a Raptors game, have us sit courtside. And
So as one of the benefits
Yeah.
of having this Crave show, which premieres, by the way, December 21st on Crave, so subscribe if you haven't already, they wanted to stick us courtside to promote the show because it was on TSN, and so they were going to put a camera courtside and basically film us courtside, and then the announcer for the Raptors, Matt Devlin, was going to be like, and there's the guys from Mike on Much premiering December 21st on Crave.
did they do that?
They didn't end up doing it.
So we just got a free hoops game out of it.
Well, we ended up getting it through the beauty of Justin Stockman and Sarah McLaren, and maybe some others that I may be forgetting. Forgive me.
Well, I
if
think
am.
there's a reason why we didn't get the call out.
Okay, so let's just go back to the call I make to Max, which is that we're
yeah.
going to get to go to this game on December 9th, courtside, Toronto Raptors, Milwaukee Bucks. And listeners, if you've listened to any of these 120 episodes, you know that I am a diehard Toronto Raptors fan. My mood lifts and falls with their wins and losses. And all three of us are huge NBA fans and Toronto Raptors fans. So this was a very big deal. The only problem is there's 3 of us, only 2 tickets.
So then I, for one, felt a little guilty about how hard you guys were working on the show while I was out on tour. You guys were editing it. You guys were dealing with all like the internal politics here in the building, like all the stuff that I, had nothing to offer. And so I immediately said, I was like, you know what? You guys are new dads. You deserve a night out. You guys are working super hard. You take the tickets. End of story. And I felt really good about that. Like, and I thought that's sort of where it would end.
It was a given that Mike was going to get the ticket.
Yeah.
So you said, I get a lot of things. I get a lot of
yeah.
freebies. So let Shane have it.
Shane do it.
Quoted.
Yes. But then, so Mike came to me, and I was like, oh shit! Like I'd love to sit courtside. Like it'd be amazing experience. But it might be less likely that they want to do a shout out.
Sure.
If Shane is sitting there. So I was like, maybe we get Max there. Or even just for we switch it up.
Sure.
You get half the first half.
We buy a cheap ticket up in the 300s.
Exactly.
and
We swap it out.
Yeah.
But he was like, no, Max really wanted you to have it. Max doesn't care if he's at the game. I was like, okay, in that case,
Yeah.
That's
go.
what you said?
I'll go.
That's what I did say. And also,
This is Max Kerman quote. You'd be doing me a favor if Shane took the ticket.
Yeah, and I really mean that. I mentioned about this opportunity to manager Ash, saying, "Oh, we got 2 tickets, and I'm not going to go, but it's great that they're going." And then Ash said, "Well, they should just get 3 tickets, or I know 3 tickets is sometimes awkward when they're giving away these freebies, so get 4 tickets." So then she went to the team because we have our own connections through our Kells with MLSC. and secured 2 courtside tickets as well,
Mm-hmm.
which immediately got me stressed out because I thought, oh man, if they give me more preferential treatment to Shane, he's going to be annoyed about this because this was sort of
No, I didn't even care. Mike came. We were eating wings at Anchor Bar before we left for Toronto. He's like, you know what's going to happen? He's like, they're going to mix us up with the Arkells and be like, there's Mike and Shane, and it's going to be Mike D.
Yeah.
and,
And you.
and Max.
Yeah, I know.
Or they're going to do some bullshit with you guys and then run out of time for us.
Yeah.
But I'm like, listen, I'm like, that would be funny if that happened because then we would say, Max, you owe us some press. And then the next time you're doing some Arkells bullshit, you'll have to talk about Mike on Much.
Yeah, there's a you owe me one situation going on.
And by the way, like I was in anticipation of us getting on TV. I thought, oh, I'll make it a little memorable. So I got a bunch of gold chains that I had from a Mr. T reshoot that I had to do for the Crave show. And I was wearing a tank top.
Yeah.
And I tucked it into my pants and I slicked my hair back. And the idea was I'm going to be really funny when they throw to me.
Yeah.
Whenever anybody asked you why you were wearing that in the photos of you in the seats, I think you always said, dress for the seats you want or something like that.
No, dress for the seats you have.
Oh, that was it.
Yeah, because I was
yeah.
sitting courtside. So I
That's
thought
right, yeah.
if I was in the 300s, I would just be a poor person. But when you're sitting courtside, you're just an eccentric millionaire in that outfit.
Sure.
They were amazing seats, by the way. Feet on the court, facing the Raptors bench. They were like the Bell Media governor's seats. Or
And
something.
your seats were better than our seats.
Oh, yeah. You had the
Shockingly.
baseline seats.
We
We
had
had the Jack Nicholson
Yeah.
seats. Yeah.
It was, yeah. And
But honestly, though, to have the kind of juice that,
Yeah.
like, most people, if they heard, you know what, there's only 2 tickets and one of the 3 is out, they'd be like devastated. You make a call to manager Ash, and then you just got courtside seats anyway.
yeah, I mean, we couldn't do that every game, but
You're
occasionally,
rocking.
you know,
It
yeah.
took us over a decade of working at this company to get those seats, Max, and
But-
you made a call.
Is it like it's fine that you got the seats? I actually think it's really cool that you're able to go to the game. But is it possible to not get the commemorative jerseys?
Oh,
Like
well, this, okay.
because that ate up a little bit of
It
time.
did,
I won't
it's-
lie.
Okay,
yeah.
so for our listeners, then I get word through manager Ash. I was like, yeah, it looks like they're going to be presenting you the jersey and doing. I was like, and in my mind, I was like, oh shit, this might take away from pod.
Yeah, I don't think
pod
the
time.
announcer Matt Devlin wanted to throw to you
Yeah.
getting the jerseys and then go
And
back
then-
to Mike on Much, which you're also a part of.
Yeah, no, I know. I did probably eat up the one opportunity.
Yes.
And I was, yeah, Mike D in our band, who's a big basketball fan now too. He came and I did talk to him about this. And the other thing is, I didn't want to tell you this, and I was sort of being shy about it. But they walked us. We had like a special, concierge person walk us back to the board of directors room for the beginning of the
You
game.
had a
and
liaison
halftime.
person that had a coat room.
Yeah, but it wasn't a coat room. It was like an all-you-can-eat free buffet.
Wow.
Drinks, food, and I got to hang out with Muggsy Bogues back there.
I saw you were sitting beside him.
No, but
From
we
Space Jam.
Yeah, but we hung out
Yeah.
backstage. So the whole time I was like, oh, I can't tell Shane this, or he's just gonna be furious. It's gonna
I
ruin
would,
his.
Max. If you want to go to the game, just tell me.
But I did. But here's the thing: I didn't even like. Out of all the things I really would want in the freebie situation, this wasn't even at the top. I had the best time.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that I got to go. But it
So
wasn't.
my treasure is your trash. Is what you said. I didn't even want this.
But I will say, okay, yeah, I feel so. I do feel a little sheepish about the whole thing. But the game itself was very memorable, I thought, and we had a chance. Fun.
Now we're going on to the
Yeah,
game.
yeah, well, what else
and then
then?
that moment it got tight in the fourth. It's like, no, we're talking about the seats.
No, not the game. No. I'm talking about things that happened in the game.
It felt awesome because in a lot of ways it felt like we owned the place. It was like all 4 of us. It was like the 3 of us on the pod, you and DZ from the band, and we were like sitting 10 feet from each other.
Yeah.
So we were
You just walk
constantly
over.
going to each other and talking. Like, and people were like, "Who are these guys?" Especially Shay because he looked so unique.
Well, there was a woman who was like, "This guy clearly shouldn't be sitting here." So she's like, "Excuse me." I'm like, "Yeah, what do you want, an autograph or something?" She's like, "Could you back up?" I'm like, "Back up." Everyone who sits courtside sits like this.
He was
I'm like,
leaning
Mike
forward.
was sitting like that, so I'm like, "Okay." I sit back, and now Mike's her problem because
Yeah.
now Mike's the one leaning forward. So she was treating me, judging me by how I was dressed. But then when Arkells got the commemorative jerseys and everything, and you guys were the big celebs, and you came over and gave me like a hug, she was like, "Uh-oh, this guy is an eccentric millionaire."
You did look like, yeah. You know, if you watch a game at like Staples Center, like, or if you're watching a Lakers game, they're like, "Who are these guys sitting courtside who just look like eccentric
They
millionaires?"
always say if you're like at Staples and it's like you see guys in the lower level, it's never the dudes that are like dressed to the nines with like the sweet Louis Vuitton or whatever. It's the guy in the pajamas.
Yeah.
They're like, that guy's got the most money because he doesn't give a fuck how he looks.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, at one point in the game, there was like a deflection on the ball, and it came at me really quick, bounced. Right. Me and Greg, my brother, were just watching this last night, and you hilariously, because I think you're eating or you're drinking a beer, but you flinch, and someone puts their hand like to protect you, but it looks like you, and I, without missing a beat, catch the basketball. Pascal Siakam, the forward for the Raptors, comes running up, like wants the ball back, and I toss it to him, and I'm so giddy,
you
like
were
a
so
child.
happy.
I started dancing in the seat, and you can see it. I'll post it on our Insta story tonight. But yeah,
I think I took a little video of you immediately in the
Afterward,
aftermath.
yeah.
You had a big
Well,
smile
I
on
was
your face.
eating a prime rib sandwich, but
That you paid for.
But yeah, I paid for it. But since I get it, man.
it was all prime rib before for the Arkells freebies, baby.
But since I try not to eat a lot of bread, I'm eating the prime rib with my bare hands because I forgot to get a.
It's tank
so,
top.
so it's covered with gravy, and I'm just putting it in my mouth, and then a ball comes flying at me, and Mike like saves me. But the ball would have been covered in grease and gravy had Mike not caught that ball.
Oh my god, that was such a fun freaking night. And then afterward, your liaison lady, who was great,
Chantel,
she brings us to the coat / prime rib room, and you guys get your coats. And because it's like us, we're all there, and then our friends Mark Myers and Chris Wong are there, who we've worked with. They're great commercial directors, and we're all like, let's go for a drink after. And we're like, okay, let's go to like Hoops, which is like a bar just down the street right by the Scotiabank Arena. And she's like, she kind of made a look.
Yeah, she's very condescending.
She judged Hoops, that we were going to go to Hoops. And I get it. You just got like some commemorative jerseys. You were living the high life. She's like, really, you guys are going to Hoops? So she takes us to like the affiliated MLSE bar.
Real Sports.
Real Sports, which is like a bar restaurant. Line up all the way down like the hallway at the restaurant. She talks to somebody, gets a whole Arkells booth.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
We roll in, some guy comes up and just buys everybody like a round.
Yeah, our friend Derek just comes up to the table. He's like, guys, first round's on me. And we all look at each other like, this is the best night ever.
It ended up being an amazing night.
It's funny, back in the board of directors room where I was talking to Muggsy Bogues, I gotta give it to Muggsy. He's like a professional famous person. So he was there with a couple other dudes. And as I was sort of
Muggsy Bogues, for our listeners, is a historic Toronto Raptors player, 5'3", I believe. So he was famously one of the shortest players in NBA history. But
he is the
favorite.
shortest.
He is the shortest.
Yeah.
5'3". He played like 14 years in the league, and and he was being very friendly, and we were talking. The band had been to Charlotte. He lives in Charlotte, so we were talking about that. And while I was talking to somebody else for a second. I guess one of the dudes whispered in his ear, it's like, their big song is knocking at the door. And so then I didn't hear this, but Muggsy goes, so you got some new music coming out? Love that knocking at the door.
Were you like Space Jam?
I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it to Muggsy because
gotta appreciate it.
You got to appreciate it. You know, it's like that kind of move really makes a boy feel good. Also, Michael Landsberg was sitting two seats away from me.
Yeah, we were watching. You guys were on Celeb Row.
Yeah, and Michael Landsberg had a sports talk show for a long time. And he's really into 5-hour energy drinks.
Well, he should come on the Champagne Boys pub crawl then.
Right? And he gave me one. So he was like, I swear by this stuff. And so shout out to Landsberg for a little 5-hour energy shot treat.
Well, it was a great time. You ruined our promo from TSN.
Yeah, sorry, everybody.
But yet we remain friends.
Yeah.
And we have the big Crave Show coming out.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
All right. Should we go to questions right away from listeners, or should we just talk about the show and then get to questions maybe at the end?
Let's do questions.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to questions. So first, we're going to go to our Instagram. If you don't follow us, you're just a listener, at Mike on Much on Instagram. Webby D, who's actually in the room right now. What up, Webby D? He was the one that posted 8 episodes of Mike on Much in Conversation with, dropped December 21st on @Crave Canada. Got a question about the new show? Post it below, send a DM, tweet us, call Shane personally. We'll answer as many as we can in an upcoming episode. We are in that episode. Dan Comand, who was on here before. He made us an Alexa skin. He asks, on which episode will the Nut be making an appearance, and can we expect some Nut / Shaney Boy shenanigans? Do you want to take that, Shane?
No episodes, and we do have the pub crawl tomorrow, so there might be some shenanigans at that point. It was a year ago tomorrow that the nut actually slapped me.
He assaulted you.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That
I
wasn't
knew-
very festive.
No. And I do have the evidence on film, which we ended up using in our live show. But he did message me a couple days ago. He said, "Get your face ready to be slapped." So I think he's planning something. I don't know. Yeah.
Kind of ambiguous. We don't know what he's planning. But no, the nut wasn't able to get on the show, but there are a couple photos of him that pop up.
Yeah.
So if you do watch the show, unlike a podcast, when you listen to this, you obviously can't see what we're doing or see visuals of what we're talking about. In the Crave show, when we mention, say, the nut, we throw to a funny photo of him.
Ah, I forgot about. Did he blur his face or no?
No, he signed the release.
With him getting his nipples tweaked?
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Now, everybody, there's
Spoiler alert.
Crave Canada crashes because everybody's rushing to subscribe now. Okay, next question from Charlie Bradbury. Any way that we can watch this internationally? That's a great question. I'm just going to go to her Instagram thing. Charlie, yeah, from the UK.
UK, yeah. For now, no.
As of right now, unfortunately, no. I think it's exclusive only in Canada.
But if you ask us, like, if you DM us, maybe we'll send you like a private link or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Stand by for
Bell
that.
Media Legal right now is cringing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
message us and we'll hook you up. That being said, we're working on things and we're hoping that these 8 episodes can maybe make it to you either across the pond or even in the U.S.
The best way for that to be possible is actually if people watch the show.
Yeah,
The more people who watch, the more likely it will end up going.
Yeah, getting picked up in other
Yeah.
places, sure.
That's right. Are you familiar with this user, Maxie?
Ah, a former crush, Emma Gillies.
I will read a former crush. Just being very open.
She went to my high school. She's a very nice girl.
You had a crush on her in high school?
Everybody did. The whole school.
Have you ever told her this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she knows. But that's not even news, yeah.
Okay. It's not breaking any sort of news. Emma Gillies asks, man, this pod has some great flows. Oh, comments are greater than questions. This isn't a question, but she commented our hair. I think that's what flows mean.
Oh, nice. Sweet.
Okay, cool.
Nice.
Yes, there are some comments. Yeah, okay. So Holly Elizabeth says, so excited and never been so happy to have Crave. Okay, this is from Lauren T. Carson on Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, real important question here. Can someone please let me use their Crave account so I can watch this?
No, subscribe. It's like $10 a month. That's why we do the show.
And
That
you get the first month free.
So
and
then-
you can cancel. There's no obligation.
Seriously,
That's what
watch
my
our
mom
8.
did. My mom just bought it. And she's like, I'm canceling the second I'm done binging.
Watch our 8, then watch some Letterkenny, and maybe you want to keep it
Listen,
after that.
You know what? You got to support the arts. This is the way these shows get made.
I agree. How are we going to get courtside tickets unless people get Crave? Okay, so Mego the Ego. Is there any way for American fans to watch? Unfortunately, same answer as the UK. Not as of yet, but we're working on it. I swear, Mego. Okay, this is actually a good one from Marie Lampropopoulos. I hope I said that right. If I didn't, I'm so sorry. She said, which episode is Frank D'Angelo a guest?
Frank is not on the show. No.
Next question.
This is from Laura Antonella, who we obviously know, Lauda Anto, who's been a follower of us and a listener forever. And she says, 3-part question. 1, does Shane finally interview Nathan Fielder?
No.
2, how many guests refuse to participate in Digital Desserts?
That's a really good question. I think I did I added up how many rejections I had, and I believe it was 12.
You're insane.
What?
That you actually spent the time to like go through and add up all the rejections.
Well, because I had a bit where I actually needed to count them up. But yeah, there was 4 at the MMVAs just alone.
Sure.
It's 9 or 12.
Sure.
All right. Okay, so there's the answer to that. And number 3, can you tell us more about this Call Shane personally option from the original thing?
Well, if you DM me, I'll give you my number, and we can call if it's for the show.
Okay. This question is from Rachel Argiano. Just listen to the new pod, and I'm hoping you guys do put it on YouTube so we can watch in the U.S. Webby D, is there any?
You gotta talk to Justin. Those are bigger decisions.
These are big boss questions. We have to talk to Justin Stockman about.
We are going to be putting up like a lot of clips from the show, though, so you should be able to at least get some sort of vibe for what we were doing in the studio.
The plan right now is to go through and get a bunch of like snackable, like 15-second to 1-minute clips that we can post all over our socials, funny bits and things like that, that hopefully entice you guys to watch the whole thing. Another one. White X Sparrows. Leak Shane's number. I just want to talk. Also, same theme and transition music or nah? That's a great question. All new music for the Crave Show.
Yeah.
All new music. In fact, you might recognize our theme song because it is composed by none other than the Arkells.
Yeah. So yeah, Saturday night, it works good. We tested a few different songs, and that one fit the best.
And it's kind of like a unique version of Saturday Night by Arkells because there's no vocals.
Yeah, just instrumental.
It's just the music. It feels good when that sax kicks in.
Yeah.
Okay, so for Miss J Plusk, who obviously we know she's great and been to our live shows, Julie, she asks, did Crave come to you or did you pitch Crave? How much easier or harder was it to do this for TV versus the pod?
And this is a good segue. Let's answer this question and then get into the making of the whole damn thing. Because before we started recording, Shane, who's kind of in a funny mood right now, I feel like.
Why?
I don't know.
No, I'm just being funny.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay, before we get to that, then I'll ask one last one because
Yeah,
I think
sure.
Shane will like this. Connor Finn says, question for Shane. Ever sit down and think about getting the Treehouse guys back together for an episode on the new Crave series?
Well,
That's a throwback to episode 89.
Well, although Connor is pretending to be a casual fan there, he is DJ Cam's manager. So he's trying to
Get him
get
on the
DJ
show.
Cam and Walter back on the show so they can promote their...
I know Connor. He's an Arkells.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to Julie's question. Did Crave come to you or did you pitch Crave? So people want to know, how did we get a damn TV show?
Yeah, so Justin Stockman,
Our podfather?
our patron saint, who is responsible for having this pod exist with Bell Media, he suggested that we do a television show, and we've been talking about it for the last few years. Like, is there a way to have the magic from the pod work on television? And I think for us, it's a pretty nimble, small operation when we do the podcast, and when we envision the television show, we hoped it would remain that way. This isn't like, for instance, like I just did an episode of The Launch, which is another CTV Bell product, and that is a massive, massive operation. Anytime you see like a big network television show, the amount of staff and money and resources being poured into it is like immense. Like, I didn't grasp it until I got to see it all in action, and I think it was our preference, and it suited the show best if we kept it small and nimble and, for lack of a better term, kind of cheap. It's like we wanted to, keep the spirit of just three guys talking and see if there's a way to make it interesting visually. So he kind of handed over the keys to us. He said, "Are you guys into it?" And correct me if I'm getting any of this wrong, Mike.
No, you're nailing it.
And we're always up for stuff, and we like the idea of saying that we have a TV show. He assigned us some producers that are here in house that are great, and Tara Paquette, she puts together some of the artwork. She was the illustrator artist for the credits. And
whenever you see the stuff on YouTube, like the logo of Mike on Much and the way that the artist names are sort of like written in and around the Jenna's Doodles for the podcast, that's all Tara. And then so she is now sort of for the whole show done all of the graphic design.
Yeah,
She's very, very good.
She's amazing, actually. So the plan was kind of put into action kind of at the beginning of the year, but the issue, or one of the issues, is just finding time to do it.
And getting big guests
and getting
and all that.
guests that are worthy of putting on television. And that ended up being kind of difficult because...
And, yeah, Greg Stewart, Sarah McLaren, like Tyson Parker, they busted their ass to get Justin. Like, everybody was pulling together here to try and find us guests for these 8, because you want really big anchor guests. Like I said, all those names off the top to sort of be there for those 8.
Yeah, and the thing which I'm able to reflect on now, which I tried to keep on my mind while we were working through all the various like bumps on the way, was that when you listen to any of the guys that have great television shows, Conan, Stephen Colbert, Kimmel, anybody who kind of works in this format, they always say, "Oh, it took 2 years for the show to become what it was," or like, it takes months, or it takes my show getting canceled 4 times for me to find my footing. So for us, I think I'm really proud of the show, and I think everyone's going to really like it. But I also knew, I was like, we're just going to learn so much from this whole experience, and we're going to figure out what we like, what we don't like, what was inefficient, how we can shoot things better, how we can edit things better. Like, all these things we won't really totally know an answer until we get through the first season.
Until we just do it.
Yeah. And so I'm already excited for the next time we get to do it. Because I know and I know you guys work in television, so you have even better idea of like how to do it better. But and that's not to say, and by the way, this is not underselling this season. I think there's so many amazing moments here, and I'm super proud of it. But I'm just so like the band when we're making a record or we put on a show. we do it. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm excited for the next one because I think we can pull off that bit even better.
Two, they and for good reason, they were focusing more on the bigger guests for the show because that's obviously the anchor. So by the time we came to shoot the actual show, we hadn't shot 2 digital desserts. Each one of those takes at least 15 hours to edit. So it was very, very, very stressful for me. And on 2 nights after we had shot all during the day, I was going to venues attempting to shoot digital desserts.
That's right.
And, you know, I'd get home at midnight or 1 a.m. And on the one case, I believe the person's name was Alaska Thunderfuck. This was from the drag. What's that drag
RuPaul's
show?
RuPaul's
Race. Drag Race. And then she canceled as I got to the venue.
In a glass half full kind of way, I'm excited because now we have amazing looking footage that we can parade around. I go, no, this is it. Like, and also when we're trying to get guests, hopefully for there's a second season, we go, oh, you know, look at this interview. It's like, that's Leon Bridges with Mike. Here's like literally a video you can watch of it. You know, like, and same thing with desserts. It's like we had Jason Mraz. This is what it looks like. This is exactly what it is. There's no confusion here.
The Jason Mraz one just pisses me off too. All the problems that happen with that one.
Why?
Have you watched it?
I've watched a version of it.
Have you seen the photos that they had to put over it?
Oh, maybe I didn't.
So they replaced all the photos that I had in it.
Shane had a bit where Jason Mraz has to react to photos, so Shane pulls out photos that he's printed off of the internet.
So they placed photos over the photos I already had.
It was a legal issue.
Yeah, like a photo of Hitler. They had to put a photo of Hitler over my photo of Hitler. And it's like, why? You're telling me you couldn't get the rights to that? And also...
the Hitler estate would be very angry with the pod. We don't want to get sued by the Hitler estate.
It's so...
People are going to think negatively of him.
So you can cut all this out, but I just have another...
Because we might have to. But
I know, but I just have another... This one's actually serious because there's certain things that I'm very worried about. Like I have like moms and, you know, stepmoms watching this. And they're advertising this on Facebook right now. And I'm going to beep this word, but the word is and the word is said 3 times on the Jason Mraz digital dessert. And I just want to say I was not forced to have the word actually in there unbeeped. I had to put the word because in that episode, there's Jared Kiso, and he's talking about how in Letterkenny they fought to get the word said 8 times. And the people in the higher ups here didn't think it would be appropriate for us to beep the word in our episode.
Are you trying to say that word as many times as possible right now?
Of course. This is a comedic device, Max. Being very clear about that. But I'll tell you the reason I had to do that was because they didn't get the Mr. T footage cleared. Because in the Jason Mraz episode, I tell Jason Mraz says he doesn't like swearing. He says he likes to be like Mr. Rogers. And he goes, I don't want to be like Mr. And I go, Mr. T? And he goes, I don't think he sweared. And I go, oh, he said in one episode of the A-Team. Then I throw to a clip of Mr. T going, I pity the fool. But instead of fool, I beep it and make it seem like he's saying, I pity the
Okay.
So the joke is, obviously Mr. T didn't say that. Shane's using editing trickery and beeping the word fool.
Yeah.
But they didn't clear the Mr. T footage.
Okay.
And I had to get a Mr. T impersonator to do it. But the Mr. T impersonator couldn't do the Mr. T voice, so I had to hire a voiceover artist. And the voiceover artist is like, do you want me to say fool or and I'm like, say So he says it, and then I'm like, well, now the joke has totally changed because now people watching are going to know that, oh, that's obviously not Mr. T's
You're
voice.
insane.
I'm like, if the joke's ruined, we might as well be punk rock and say on the air. And that's what the Crave people wanted too.
Really?
So
we
my
had to
mom
change?
is telling all of her friends, my sweet son has a show. Never talked about the pod in her life. I did not know she was going to go on this advertising campaign. My stepmom, who has never heard me swear ever, is going to hear me say twice and throw to a Mr. T impersonator saying. Anyway, I just want to say there's a reasoning behind that, and I don't think it's necessarily funnier. And I do want to release the proper Jason Mraz digital dessert that I'm actually like really proud of. Mm-hmm. And it also has a clip of Jason Mraz performing in it, which we couldn't get the rights to. So I had to replace the clip. It's totally different now if you actually watch it.
Okay, well, yeah.
But I think the other big important C word here is crave. And if that was a tease that makes you want to watch the show, please go subscribe to Crave so you can hear Shane.
Webby D is giving Mike a slow clap for that.
I was just trying to transition. But yes, so it still works. It's still a great bit. People will still love the Jason Mraz bit.
Lastly, this is separately. I'm not sure if this made the cut, but do I talk about Lights, having a crush on Lights? Does that make the cut?
That made it into the episode.
Okay. I just want to say...
There's an episode with Lights. She's the featured guest, obviously friend of the pod, and Shane admits to having a crush on her right before we throw the interview.
Yeah, and I want to say to my wife right now that it's a very cutesy type of crush. And only if I was a single man would I ever... even really in real life be like, oh, I have a crush. I'm not going around being like, oh, I have a crush on so many women. Like, you couldn't pay me to date Lights right now. I'm happly married.
Why are you winking at me right now?
No, I'm not. I'm a heavy blinker, and you know that.
In one eye. It's an affliction. Let's go to one more question here. This one's from This is from Twitter from, and I hope I don't get his last name wrong, Ryan Kleinow.
Yeah, sure.
Kleinaau.
Yeah, we've met this guy before.
Yeah, I just hope I said his last name right. Will the Crave episodes also be available to listen to as normal pods or exclusive only to Crave?
Good question. Just get Crave, man.
Yeah, I don't
I
think,
say we keep it exclusive.
Yeah.
But and also if you're listening that's like, I want it on the audio pod, it won't work as an audio pod. We throw too many visuals in the openings, and like maybe the interviews will work, but the opening for sure, and definitely Shane's Digital Desserts, you need to see.
Yeah, and to that point, I think one of the challenges about the nature of this kind of show is like, how do we make it interesting on television? Because there have been, to use a fellow podcaster example, Bill Simmons, who has one of the most famous podcasts and well-regarded podcasts out there, he tried to do a version of this show on HBO, and you can imagine how
resources
and the talent that went into that. And it was a tough go, I think, for him, because I think there's something about listening to interviews while you're running errands or doing chores or on the bus, where it's an audio medium, and then the trick for us is how do we make it into a compelling thing to watch. So we did really try our best in subtle ways to make the visual experience good, and that was by adding graphics and Shane's digital dessert as opposed to normal dessert, and also sometimes chopping the interviews to make it a little bit shorter so it's a little bit more digestible, because watching an interview for an hour would be different than listening to.
Well, it helps the experience, like especially if you're curious what certain champagne boys look like or whatever. If you've always wondered, if you're already invested in the pod, you want to put a face to what we're talking about. And we throw to a lot of clips from our lives or parties we were at, or like we have the Jared Kiso story where we actually throw to that, which I thought was really good.
Yeah, and I mean, to Shane's point, it's like if you've ever been interested, if you've listened to our podcast and listened to the interviews that we do, you're really going to see sort of like how we sort of do it, and the way that a Sting or a Jared Kiso or Leon Bridges or Alessia Cara are in those moments, how they're sort of like thinking about questions, how they're reacting to questions, and hopefully that you guys enjoy it as sort of like watching two people, get comfortable and really sort of revelatory in their answers. You guys have any favorite guests from the show? Ooh. Max, you came to the Alessia Cara interview.
Yeah, Alessia
and the
was
Jared
really,
Kiso interview.
Yeah. I will say it is cool. It's really cool being in the room for these interviews too, and hopefully as a viewer, that's how it feels. And we keep in some of the behind the scenes stuff too. One of my favorite answers that you see in the trailer is Sting talking about the profession of teaching.
Yeah,
and that was kind of answered after the fact, right?
Yeah, just like casual sort of, they're taking photos. We let it roll. That's the thing. We try to show you what it looks like when like these big celebrities come into an interview, and sort of after the cameras stop rolling, we just kind of want to, like we always say, just sort of like peel back the curtain a bit and let you see, I guess, how TV's made and sort of how we're experiencing it in real time, hopefully in the TV show.
If you guys were to say what were some references of television shows that we were thinking about when you guys were editing and creating the show, because I think we talked about the Norm show, the Norm Macdonald show, the Digital Desserts. I think have like a Tim and Eric style.
Yeah, Eric Andre, but like it's
Between Two Ferns quality to them to a certain degree.
Yeah, it's right in between Two Ferns and Eric Andre. I would say.
I think the set design was
wonderful.
Yeah, really awesome set that
Yeah.
we do the opens in, and
Melanie.
yeah, she
Shared
killed it. And
Belmedia.
describe what she was going for. Do you think?
Oh, it was like kind of like this like old school throwback to like what Much music I think sort of was, you know, when we were younger. It was kind of this irreverent, like fun, anything goes kind of live energy. And I think that sort of the set sort of feels like that. It's eclectic. There's a lot going on visually, and we want it to be a space that can be creative, and the three of us can kind of like feel comfortable and sort of just really kind of do what we do here, but obviously a heightened version. And yeah, there's lots. I mean, again, like Jodie Whittaker is one of the guests. I'm a huge Doctor Who fan, so that was a thrill. Like Shane said, there's so many great digital desserts, including Hayden Christensen, who is a huge name, and that's really
surprisingly Arkells. Like I showed that's my wife's favorite one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Have you showed the rest of the band the edit
No,
yet?
I haven't.
So the band has not seen the Arkells digital dessert.
No.
What were your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, you know what's funny? So just a little peek behind the curtain. So when we were filming the show, it was in the middle of like a very heavy album promo time for me. Like I was pretty stretched thin, and I think we shot the digital dessert like the day before our record came out.
Yeah.
And also, I am somewhat sensitive to just the dynamic in the band, and I know I'm doing this thing on the side, but I don't want anybody in the band to ever be offended by something happening over in this part of my work.
In pod world?
In pod world. So, yeah, I just want to be conscious of all that. And but the nature of the digital dessert is that it is awkward. It's intentionally awkward. And part of the bit was me. I don't want to give it away, but.
Well, my fear was that it wouldn't be awkward because I'm fairly comfortable with everyone in the band. I fear some of the members, but a lot of them I'm comfortable with. And I had kind of alluded to that I was going to ask you one of the more difficult questions I've ever come up with.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm going to give you the boy band treatment. And when we recorded in studio, you were like, oh, great, I've always wanted to be in a boy band. But I guess you forgot that the one question in the boy band is very hard and almost impossible to answer in 2018. So everything was going pretty great, even some of the more risque stuff. And you were just loving it. You were laughing at everything because another part of the bit was I wasn't going to talk to you.
Yeah.
I was just talking to the guys in the band who typically don't get as much media attention.
Yeah.
And then when I do ask you a question, I ask you the hardest question known to man.
Yeah.
And you kind of panicked a little bit, got a little angry with me. I'm just like, I'm not answering that.
What a tease.
like-
I love this. This is great for listeners.
And then I basically said, like, the interview's over, right?
Well,
And I was serious.
and Max Kerman storm out.
Well, then manager Ash is like, well, do you have any more questions? Because I'm like, what the fuck do I do? How do I end this? And it's a really awkward moment. And then I start asking, which I ended up cutting out, but I do edit these quite a bit. But I ended up asking you guys if you ever wish more boys came to your shows. And you're like, no, it's got the right amount of boys. And then I kind of make fun of you for that, like tease around that. But I ended up cutting that, and I just ended more abruptly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a fun one. And yeah, Alex, my wife, definitely laughed.
Oh, really?
the hardest
Okay.
at that one.
Okay, good. I thought it turned out great, too.
Yeah.
And hopefully all the listeners hear that and they're like, I got to see this fucking
But
thing now.
afterwards, was the band like, what the fuck was that?
No, it was such a crazy week for everybody. So I was like, okay, on to the next thing, kind of thing. Like, and they know you too, and they know your sense of humor. So nothing was that.
Which is
surprising.
shocking that they showed up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had told you, give them a little notice, tell them I'm going to do something silly. You're like, oh yeah, don't worry, it'll be great. And then while we're setting up and the guys are taking their jackets off, you're like, oh guys, Shane does this little funny thing. It's like between two ferns. They're like, what? Oh, okay. And then I kind of had a little panic there.
Yeah. All right. Should we wrap it up?
I think we should. What should we leave our listeners with? Like we said, it's been a very interesting learning curve to the show, but it's funny because when you're shooting these 8 episodes, in the moment when you're on the set and all that stuff, you are like, oh, was that good? We don't know. And then you see it later in the edit. And after we've had some time away and now that we've seen these 8 episodes, we're all really proud of it. Like, man, like the opening of like the Jodie Whittaker episode, for instance, it's like when we watch back and I'm like, I forgot that Shane told that story. You know, it's such, there's so many good bits that we're super proud of. And for our first try ever making a show, like I couldn't be prouder of these 8 episodes. And I hope that all of our listeners that are able to watch it, and if you aren't, I'm sorry, we're going to find a way to get it to you. We hope that you guys love it as much as we enjoyed doing it.
Yeah. And it's really the result of, is because we've done this podcast for over 100 episodes and built up sort of the chemistry talking to each other. It's like, just leaning on our experience at this point, I think made the show fun and I think really good. So hopefully you guys like it.
Yeah, and hopefully we get to do it again.
Yeah.
But before that, December 21st, 8 episodes.
Yeah.
Maybe binge them over the holidays. Let us know what you
Yeah,
think.
you tweet or say like, I got at Crave Canada TV, Crave
Specifically
TV,
for
because of the Mike on Much podcast,
Yeah.
only because of that. And then we can send those screenshots to the bigwigs upstairs.
anything you want our listeners to know about your digital desserts, Shaney boy.
I know the word dessert is annoying, and I hate constantly saying
Really?
it.
I don't find it annoying.
Well, I have a friend, Matt McPeak, and he was like, don't you? I just hate the word dessert. And I agree with
Really?
him.
Well, he
but-
doesn't eat any dessert. Look at that.
Oh, he's
No.
ripped.
But yeah, you will hear the word dessert quite a bit.
I'm into
And,
it.
Yeah. Anyway.
Cool.
So please check it out on Crave if you can. We are super grateful that you listen to this episode, and hopefully you like the show. Guys, I guess that's it. We're all off for the holidays. Actually, we're going to record a couple more pods so that people have them over the holidays.
Yeah.
So we got some good stuff coming up over the next week or two. The Michael Much. Oh, and you know what? Thank you to fucking everybody that made this show happen. You know
We
what I
should
mean?
have opened with that.
There's
Thanks,
so many
everybody.
names. There's too many to say. Obviously, Justin Stockman, the Podfather, made the show happen.
We'll get to all the names
We'll get to
on
everybody.
another
Or
day.
just watch the credits of the show
Yeah,
because they're
that
all
works
right
too.
there. The Michael Much Podcast, produced by Max Kerman. I'm your host, Mike Veerman. See you next week if we don't die on the weekend.